Okay, so my name is Nick, and I need to tell you about VeChain's new Hayabusa hard fork, the one that just went live on its testnet, because it's flipping the script for VET holders. Now, I have to share this story because there's a twist in this upgrade that might catch a lot of people off guard. Now, by the end of this video, you're going to see why simply holding VET might not cut it anymore, and how this upgrade could change the game for a lot of us in the VeChain community. So, for context, as I'm recording this, the Hayabusa testnet is live and the clock is ticking. Now, the team started a 7-day transition period that ends on November 11th. If all goes well, the full mainnet upgrade is scheduled for December 2nd, 2025. Now, after that, VeChain plans to enter the next phase. Tellingly coded name is actually called Interstellar, and that happens in 2026. Now, this is going to bring even more goodies like JSON, RPC support, and full Ethereum virtual machine compatibility. Now, in other words, this isn't some far-off idea. It's actually happening right now, and it's happening quite fast. So, how did I almost miss it? Well, one morning I'm scrolling through X and I see this post from the VeChain team about something named Hayabusa. Now, at first I thought, Hayabusa, isn't that just some kind of Japanese motorcycle or a ninja move? And it's actually the name is after a famous superbike, fun fact there, but then I remembered that it's also the name of a Japanese spacecraft, and that is no coincidence. See, VeChain actually named this upgrade Hayabusa after the spacecraft itself, which overcame daunting challenges to bring asteroid samples back to Earth, symbolizing how VeChain is overcoming its own challenges to deliver major improvements to the network. It sounds pretty epic, right? Naturally, my curiosity skyrocketed. I had to find out what valuable thing Hayabusa was going to bring back for all of us. Now, it turns out that it's bringing a complete revamp of how VeChain's blockchain works for people like you and me. Now, for a long time, VeChain used a system called Proof of Authority, POA. Now, in plain English, that meant that only a small, fixed group of authority node validators actually validated transactions and secured the network. Now, it was great for speed and reliability in enterprise use cases. In fact, there's been lots of academic papers about POA. But not so great, I guess, if you're an average VET holder who wanted to participate in a network, kind of like an exclusive club with a bouncer at the door. You were holding VET, but you did get something out of it, right? Just a tickle of V4, right? That's VeChain 4's energy, the gas token. That generated automatically just in your wallet. Now, it was almost like a little passive dividend for just holding VET. Nice while it lasted, right? You see, here is the plot twist. With Hayabusa, that free ride is ending, but the network is switching to a Delegated Proof of Stake, DPoS, and the rules are changing big time. Now, if you want to earn some V4 or other rewards, you actually have to participate by staking your VET or delegating it to someone who does, right? And now, if you just leave it in your wallet, your VET just sitting idle, well, the automatic V4 generation is going to stop. Yeah. There's no more passive income just for being a couch holder. Now, VeChain basically told us, we love our holders, but we need active hands on deck now. So for someone like me, until recently, was kind of content to kind of let my bag of VET just collect dust and V4 in my wallet, this was a bit of a wake-up call. VeChain is essentially saying that simply holding VET is not enough. They want us to use it and to help secure the network. And before anyone runs off to stake everything, let me be absolutely clear about something right here. This might just shock you, but I'm not a financial advisor, and nothing in this video is financial advice. Cryptocurrencies are highly volatile, and you could lose all of the money that you invest. You should always do your own research and consult a qualified professional. After all, your investments are entirely your responsibility, and you should know that nothing is ever guaranteed when it comes to investing. Neither I, this channel, nor YouTube are liable for any losses, and this video is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Alright, I'm glad that we got that out of the way, so let's break down what Hayabusa actually does and why it's got me rethinking my strategy. So, changes like these are kind of exactly what we discuss on our free educational Discord. The link is in the description, by the way. So if you're not in there yet, you should definitely join us. It's a great place to learn, share insights, and stay ahead of the curve with a community of fellow crypto enthusiasts. And on a side note, since we're kind of talking about being prepared in crypto, I also want to mention that it's probably worth repeating this as well, to have multiple accounts multiple exchange accounts as backups, right? Now, I personally sign up and KYC when needed on many different exchanges and test a bunch of them because you never know when one might go down or freeze withdrawals. So I've got a plan A, a B, C, D, you kind of get the idea. Now, for example, I use things like Binance, Coinbase, Kraken, and Blowfin and BitGet and others, right? Now, there is a link in the description down below that goes over to my website. And on the website, I list all of the exchanges that I personally use. And those links on the website, they're affiliate links which support the channel here at no extra cost to yourself. Important that we kind of clear about all of those things as well. So if you do use them, I would like to say big thank you in advance. Anyway, more importantly, it means that you're not going to be stuck on one platform if it has issues, right? Staying prepared with multiple options is just smart in this place. Okay, now back to the VeChain's big shakeup here. Now, under the new DPoS system, every VET holder has a chance to contribute to the network security and governance. So think of it like VeChain is going from a monarchy to a democracy overnight. So instead of a few pre-approved authority nodes calling all the shots, we'll now have up to 101 validators competing and collaborating to produce blocks and validate transactions. And who chooses those validators? Well, we do, indirectly, right? We can stake, or at least you can stake your own VET through the VeChain's new Stargate platform and delegate your stake to the validator that you want to support. And by doing that, you actually help secure the network and earn a share of the block rewards in return. For most of us, delegating to a validator will be the way to go, since not everyone will have the resources to run a full node themselves. But if you are a high roller with, let's say, 25 million VET just sitting around, then you can actually queue up to become a validator for yourselves. Now, I know 25 million VET is an awful lot. I mean, at today's prices, that's going to be a pretty hefty sum. So think of that as the VIP entrance then. Now, the cool part is that even that process is first come, first serve, and is pretty transparent. There's no special handouts there. Basically, any holder with enough VET can get in line for a validator spot, which can open VeChain's governance to a much broader range of participants than before. Now, this is a pretty huge change from the old days. It kind of feels like VeChain is saying, come on, come all, right? Come one, come all. And if you've been on at least got the stake and the dedication, you can probably help the network run. Now, let's talk about rewards, because incentives are really what makes this whole thing tick, right? Now, VeChain set up a pretty clever tiered reward system to make it fair and encourage long-term involvement. Validators, the folks who actually run the nodes, they earn 2x rewards as an incentive for their work and expenses. If you were an early VeChain believer and hold one of those coveted X nodes from back in the day, and VET you delegate gets a 1.5x reward multiplier, a nice perk to reward your loyalty. And regular delegators, which will be most of us, will get a standard 1x rate. So basically, validators get the biggest piece, OGs get the little kind of boost there, and new people are still welcome, will get the base rate too. So I actually kind of like this setup a bit. It kind of says thank you to the long-term supporters without excluding any newcomers. It's a balanced approach and keeps the community engaged across the board. Remember how I said passive holdings won't earn you much anymore? Well, instead of the old static V4 drip that everyone got just by holding, well, now V4 rewards are being distributed through block rewards tied directly to the network activity. Now, that is a big shift. It means that if the network is super active, lots of transactions and lots of usage, more V4 will be generated and handed out for those of us staking and delegating. If the network is quieter, well, there's not going to be a flood of excess V4 being printed for no reason. So in short, idle V4 generation is eliminated and rewards are now aligned with actual usage. Now this makes the whole economy more balanced and sustainable because they're not just minting tons of V4 that nobody's using, right? In fact, the team estimates that V4 issuance at launch will shrink to around 60 to 70% of previous levels. That's a pretty dramatic reduction in inflation. Less excess V4 being churned out means less downward pressure on V4's price, since people won't be getting much free V4 to possibly dump on the market. And since V4 is the gas that powers VeChain's transactions, keeping its supply under control is super important. Now, the best part here is that transactions costs are expected to remain very low and predictable for users and builders even after all of these changes. So they've kind of managed here to reward active participants and still maintain the cheap fees that businesses love for VeChain. Right? That's not a bad combo. Now, what about the results so far? We're only in the testnet phase, right? But people are already jumping onto this. Now, during the testnet, the network allowed new validators to signal interest. Now, sure enough, a whole bunch of validators, they sprang up almost immediately. Now, VeChain's co-founder, Sunny Lu, noted that a platform called Redino, a liquid staking project in the VeChain ecosystem, has already confirmed 19 active validator nodes on the testnet network, collectively staking around 475 million VET. So just let that sink in. Nearly $500 million of VET was locked up by new validators right out of the gate. And more validators are in the process of onboarding as we speak. Now, if that doesn't tell you that there's excitement around this upgrade, I don't know what will. So clearly that I'm not the only one who's got the memo that something big is happening here. For us VET holders, that also means a lot of tokens might get locked away in staking for the longer haul. And when a whole bunch of tokens are locked up and off the market, two things tend to happen. One, the network becomes more secure because higher staked value equals higher security, more skin in the game. And two, the circulating supply of VET effectively shrinks, which can create upward pressure on the price if demand stays the same or increases. Now, I'm not making price predictions here, but basic supply and demand says that if more people lock up their VET for rewards, fewer coins are going to be available to trade, and that could be a bullish factor over time. It's one of the reasons I'm personally paying attention to the staking rates as we approach the mainnet upgrade. But Hayabusa, it isn't just about staking and tokenomics. It's actually a part of a much bigger vision that the team is calling the VeChain Renaissance. Now, in an apt name, I guess, because it actually really is a rebirth of the project here. Now, the Hayabusa hard fork is actually the second of 3 planned phases of this 2025 Renaissance roadmap. And the next phase after Hayabusa is something that's called Interstellar. Now, if that name sounds grand, it should. Interstellar is all about boosting interoperability and connectivity. For example, when Interstellar rolls out, VeChain will introduce support for standard JSON RPC APIs and upgrade to its EVM, the Ethereum Virtual Machine capabilities. Now, in everyday terms, VeChain will become a lot more developer-friendly and easier to integrate with existing Ethereum-based applications and tools. It's like VeChain is reinventing its house and also building bridges all at the same time. And speaking of bridges, there's another development that has me excited. VeChain is reaching out beyond its own ecosystem through a partnership with Wanchain. Now, they're leveraging Wanchain's incentive-driven bridge-to-earn model to connect VeChain's VTHO system or ecosystem with over 40 other blockchains. Now, this is a pretty huge thing because it means that users can move assets across chains and even earn rewards for completing cross-chain tasks with no annoying token lockups. So imagine getting paid to bridge your tokens from VeChain to, let's say, Ethereum or to Binance Chain and back again. That's what bridge to earn is all about. Now, it's all designed to boost liquidity and bring more users into VeChain's sphere by tapping into the liquidity of other networks. The timing of all of this aligns perfectly with Hayabusa's upgrade and VeChain's broader push too. They're not just revamping the rules internally, they're also actively reaching out externally to make VeChain a hub in a wider crypto ecosystem. So if Hayabusa is about fixing Homebase, Bridge to Earn is about inviting the whole neighborhood to come and visit. Together, these moves could actually be the catalyst that drives global DeFi adoption onto VeChain, something that honestly wouldn't be been feasible back when VeChain was more closed off and enterprise-only chain. Now, let's talk about trust and compliance, because this is a big part of the story too. VeChain's slogan for this upgrade could well be "Adoption requires trust," and they're walking the walk on that one. In particular, VeChain has aligned itself with this new MiCA regulation in the European Union, which is one of the most comprehensive regulatory frameworks for digital assets. They even had their own white papers for VeChain and the community-run VTHO officially verified and listed in the EU MiCA register this is actually maintained by the European Securities and Markets Authority, right? That is pretty huge seal of approval in terms of regulatory compliance. Now, it means that VeChain is positioning itself as a serious, law-abiding platform that big businesses and institutions can feel safe working with. In a world where many crypto projects are in regulatory limbo, VeChain is proactively clearing a path for itself. And it's not just paperwork. VeChain's also bringing on heavy-hitting partners from traditional finance. For example, they partnered with Franklin Templeton, yes, the $1.5 trillion asset management giant, to help tokenize financial assets on VeChain's blockchain. They've also teamed up with crypto firms like KeyRock to bolster up liquidity infrastructure. Now, all of these moves, they signal that VeChain is striving to be an institutional-grade blockchain, not just a niche supply chain token. So for me, as an investor and a fan of the tech, seeing all of these pieces come together is pretty inspiring. It's not often that you see a project tackling decentralization, community growth, interoperability, regulatory compliance all at once, and actually delivering on it. Right? VeChain was already well known for real-world partnerships and has a pretty solid track record. Right? It's been running since 2017 with 100% uptime. But sometimes it got flack for being too centralized or just not enough DeFi, right? Now, with Hayabusa and beyond, we're actually addressing some of those criticisms head on. It's like VeChain looked in the mirror and said, it's time to evolve. Now, I'm going to be honest, this whole upgrade has reinvigorated my interest in VeChain a bit. It's made VET go from passive part of my portfolio to something maybe I'm going to be more actively engaging with. I've already kind of started staking my VET because, Hayabusa changes things. Now, the guy who was okay being a passive holder is now actually opting to be more of an active participant in the ecosystem. Why? Because the incentives finally line up with the long-term health of the project. So when the network grows and gets used more, I benefit more from it and vice versa. Now that feels like being on the same team as the project rather than just speculating on it from the sidelines. In many ways, this hard fork marks the end of VeChain as we knew it and is the beginning of a brand new chapter. It's a bit like, I guess, VeChain grew up overnight. The project used to be all about big corporate partnerships with somewhat static economic models in the background, right? Well, now it's actually leveling up into a dynamic, community-driven, DeFi-capable blockchain while still keeping its enterprise-friendly features. That is a pretty tough balancing act, but so far, they're pulling it off. And it really does feel like a renaissance of VeChain, a rebirth where the community and the tech are coming together to create something even bigger. Is it risky? Sure. Change always comes with risks. There could be some technical hiccups in the transition, or maybe some holders won't like the new rules and just drop out. But from where I stand now, the risks of not evolving were actually probably greater. Right? In crypto, projects that stand still, they get left behind. VeChain saw the writing that was on the wall. To stay relevant and to achieve the mass adoption that they're aiming for, they need to open up, they need to speed up, and they need to invite the world in. Hayabusa is a bold way of doing exactly that. It essentially says, we're putting our money where our mouth is. We're decentralizing, we're incentivizing, real use of course, and we're aligning everyone's interests so that when VeChain grows, you grow with it. So as we approach the mainnet launch in December, I'm going to be watching closely to see how the community responds en masse. Will a ton more people stake their VET now that they actually can delegate rather easily? Will we see dozens of new community-run validators popping up around the world? The early signs are pretty positive. I'm also watching how all this affects VET and V4 in the market. Already, there's some speculation about these upgrades could strengthen VET's value proposition significantly. Some analysts even predict that it could catalyze a major move and price rally, though, as always, take predictions with a grain of salt. Whether or not that happens, what I care about is the fundamentals here. More decentralization, more utility, more users. Those are the things that make a blockchain project truly successful in the longer run. So, here is my takeaway from this Hayabusa adventure. VeChain is not the set and forget kind of project that it once was. It's evolving into an active ecosystem where what you do with your tokens actually matters more than just how many you actually hold. And personally, I find that rather exciting. It feels like we're at the start of a new adventure with old friends here. Right, VeChain has been around for many years, but now it's got this new spark and a new mission. And if you're a VET holder like me, it might just be time to pay attention in a way that you haven't done so before. Now, I know that it was for me. Now, if you're not involved in VeChain just yet, it could be a great moment to take a fresh look, just because VeChain 2025 onwards is shaping to be a very different beast than it was in the past year or so. Now, I hope that this little journey through VeChain's Hayabusa upgrade sheds some light on why everyone is suddenly talking about it. Whether you're staking, holding, or just watching curiously from the sidelines, it's definitely one of the more fascinating developments in the crypto space right now. VeChain has thrown down the gauntlet and said, we're here to play with the big boys, and we're bringing our community with us. Now, I, for one, am here for it. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit that like button and the subscribe button, and so you don't miss any of the more insights or updates here. And I will catch you all in the next one.